Women don't cheat like men. They don't sneak around at night. They open their hearts slowly. And by the time you realize it, you're just the guy she comes home to. Not the one she dreams about. She still kisses you goodnight. She still says, "I love you." But somewhere in her phone, in her thoughts, in her emotional energy, someone else is already occupying space you don't even know you lost. And that, my friend, is the betrayal most men never see coming. You think cheating is physical. She knows better, because for her, it never starts in the bedroom. It starts in her mind, then her heart, and then it moves to the body, if it even needs to. But the damage is already done. This video isn't about hate. It's about awareness. This isn't for bitter men. This is for stoic men, the ones who don't beg, don't break, and don't live in delusion. Because the stoic doesn't seek control. He seeks clarity, and clarity demands one hard truth. Most emotional cheating looks exactly like loyalty, until it's too late. So what does emotional cheating actually look like? It's not always obvious. She won't say, "Hey babe, I'm emotionally connecting with another man." No, she'll call it just talking, helping a friend, someone who gets me, he's like a brother. But pay attention, because emotional infidelity has patterns, habits, rituals. And those rituals tell you everything. If you know what to look for. You're told not to be jealous. You're told to trust her. You're told you're insecure if you even question her closeness with another man. So you silence your instincts. You ignore the feeling in your gut. Until one day, the truth comes like a freight train. But a stoic man doesn't operate on blind trust. He operates on pattern recognition. And emotional cheating always follows patterns. The truth no one told you. Most women who cheat emotionally have already left the relationship months before the physical affair ever happens. They detach first, then they seek connection elsewhere. Then they justify it. He listens to me. He cares. We just talk. Until they don't just talk. So how do you know it's happening? That's why this video exists. To walk you through the 7 subtle, overlooked habits women use to emotionally exit while bonding with another man. These habits seem innocent. Society even praises some of them. But in stoic clarity, we strip away illusions. No emotional bond is just a friendship when it violates the emotional exclusivity of your relationship. And make no mistake, emotional exclusivity is just as sacred as physical. Warning before we begin. Some of what you're about to hear might hurt. Especially if you're seeing these signs right now. But truth hurts before it frees. Denial soothes before it destroys. You get to choose which path to walk. What this video will give you. The 7 emotional cheating behaviors with real-world examples. How to respond like a stoic, not a simp, not a savage. How to guard emotional boundaries without becoming paranoid. How to spot the shift before it's too late. Emotional infidelity is often invisible. But once you know the signs, you'll never unsee them. Now let's begin. The first habit seems kind, even noble. But it's the most dangerous one of all. She offers her sympathy, but not to you. Habit 1. Oversympathy equals emotional leverage. She calls it empathy. You think it's kindness. But what's really happening is far more strategic. Emotional cheating doesn't begin with flirting. It begins with compassion. And not directed at you. Pay attention when she starts feeling bad for that guy at work. The harmless one going through a breakup. The good guy who's just misunderstood. The one who really needs someone to talk to. She starts texting him, checking on him, sharing inside jokes, asking how he's feeling. Suddenly, she's emotionally invested in his story, and you're no longer the main character in hers. She'll justify it all. I'm just being a good friend. He has no one else. Don't be jealous. It's not like that, but sympathy is emotional currency, and she's spending it on someone else. Men often mistake emotional cheating as sexual interest. But in truth, many emotional affairs start under the banner of virtue. It feels noble. It feels human. That's what makes it dangerous. She's not hiding a hotel room key. She's hiding an emotional alliance. One that gives her validation, attention, and emotional stimulation, without the physical guilt. But to your relationship, the damage is identical. She begins comparing, subconsciously, at first. Why can't you listen like him? He actually cares. He remembers the small things. And once that comparison loop begins, you've already lost ground. Here's the twist. Women who emotionally cheat often think they're doing nothing wrong. Because society tells them emotional intimacy is harmless. But emotional energy is not neutral. It always has a direction. And when it's consistently flowing toward another man, your relationship is slowly starving. Stoic insight. True emotional loyalty is not just about who she sleeps with. It's about who gets the version of her that feels the most alive. If that's no longer you, it doesn't matter what her body's doing. Her mind has already moved. You'll know it's happening when she starts defending him harder than she defends you. When his problems get more attention than your needs. When she lights up at his texts and shrinks at yours. Do not argue. Do not accuse. Observe. Detachment reveals what emotion blinds. Ask yourself, is she giving someone else the emotional support and attention that once bonded her to me? If the answer is yes, then you've already been emotionally replaced. And if you bring it up, expect gaslighting. You're overreacting. Why don't you trust me? He's just a friend. But ask yourself, would she tolerate you doing the same with another woman? Of course not, because deep down, she knows the truth. Emotional investment is a threat. That's why women are more afraid of men forming emotional bonds than random hookups. So why shouldn't you be? The Stoic response: don't beg. Don't argue. Don't try to win her attention back by proving your worth. That only deepens her comparison reflex. Instead, pull your attention back. Observe her reactions. The person who truly values you will feel the absence of your emotional presence. The one who's already drifted won't even notice. Either way, clarity is better than delusion. You must be willing to lose someone who's already emotionally gone. Habit 1 was never just kindness. It was a transfer of emotional currency. And now, someone else is emotionally richer, at your expense. Let's move on. Habit 2 is even more subtle and more dangerous. It looks like personal growth. But in reality, it's the beginning of emotional exit. Habit 2. Sudden self-discovery. That doesn't include you. One day she wakes up and says, I just need to find myself. Sounds innocent, empowering, even. Society praises it. You nod, supportive. But what she's really saying is, I need emotional distance, without saying it directly. Watch closely. Her new self-growth phase includes therapy, journaling, yoga, maybe a solo trip, but somehow, you're never invited into that process. She talks about becoming the best version of herself, but that version no longer aligns with you. She says it's not about anyone else, just her, but the timeline tells a different story. That's when she becomes colder, shorter texts, less eye contact, sex fades, affection feels forced, but her phone, lighting up more than ever. And if you ask what's going on, she'll say, nothing's wrong, I'm just focusing on myself. But self-focus without emotional inclusion is emotional withdrawal in disguise. Here's what's really happening. She's building an emotional escape route and doing it in plain sight. Because when a woman is planning to exit, she doesn't always leave physically first. She detaches through self-reinvention, where you're no longer part of the picture. Pay attention to language. When we becomes me. When future plans are no longer shared. When independence becomes secrecy. She starts reading books about boundaries. She reposts quotes about letting go of what no longer serves you. You think it's just Instagram fluff. It's not. It's a message, just not for you. Most men miss this habit because it's framed as a positive thing. And it can be, but not when it excludes the relationship entirely. Not when you're suddenly positioned as the thing holding her back. You're no longer her partner. You're the old version of herself she's outgrowing. And here's the plot twist. There's usually another man validating this transformation in the background. Not always physically, but emotionally. He listens. He supports her becoming. He cheers her on. While you're left wondering, why does it feel like she's drifting while smiling? Stoic men don't chase the version of her that's walking away. They don't fight growth, but they recognize when growth is just a respectable excuse for emotional exit. You'll know it's happening when she starts saying vague things like, I'm not the same person I was. I just need space to figure things out. I still love you, but I'm not in love right now. Translation. I want freedom to explore new emotional attachments, without guilt. And if you resist, you're labeled as controlling. If you pull back, you're not fighting for her. That's the trap. So what do? You don't panic. You don't chase. You don't try to compete with her fantasy of transformation. Instead, you observe. Is this self-discovery expanding her or erasing me? If she's becoming more alive, but less emotionally available to you, then she's not growing with you, she's growing away. And that's not something you fix. It's something you accept. Because when someone evolves and no longer sees you in their future, it's not a break. It's a silent goodbye. Habit 2 isn't about yoga. It's not about journaling. It's about where her emotional energy flows when she's finding herself. And if you're not part of that journey, you're already part of her past. Let's keep going. Habit 3 looks like loyalty, but it's emotional dual citizenship. Habit 3. She stops arguing because she's arguing emotionally with someone else. At first, it feels like peace. No more tension. No more fights. You think things are getting better. But what's really happening is this. She's stopped investing in you emotionally because someone else already holds that space. Women don't stop arguing because they've given up on drama. They stop because they've given up on you. And where does that emotional energy go? Not into silence. It goes somewhere else, to someone else. Emotional cheating isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's quiet detachment disguised as maturity. She's calm, unbothered, no more complaints. But you don't feel closer, you feel invisible. Why? Because she no longer needs you to understand her. Someone else already does. The man she vents to. The man who just gets it. The one she shares her frustrations with. The ones she used to share with you. So while you're celebrating the calm, she's outsourcing emotional processing to another man. You're not in the conversation anymore, you're the topic of it. And here's the paradox. Most men feel relieved when the arguing stops. They think, finally, no more nagging. But in reality, they've just been emotionally replaced. Disengagement is not always healing. Sometimes it's transfer of attachment. And the other guy? He's her safe space. He listens without resistance. He validates her without challenge. He becomes the emotional reward for giving up on trying with you. Stoic men don't mistake silence for peace. They understand that a lack of conflict isn't always a sign of harmony. It's often a sign of emotional redirection. You'll notice it in small ways. She no longer gets upset when you forget something. She doesn't care if you come home late. She used to cry during arguments, now she just shrugs. Indifference is not forgiveness, it's exit in slow motion. And when someone is emotionally gone, their body becomes a placeholder. They're present, but their presence is gone. So what do you do when she stops fighting? You don't try to reignite conflict just to feel connection. That's emotional desperation. Instead, you quietly assess. Who is she now emotionally accountable to? Who's getting the version of her that used to care enough to argue? Because if it's not you, it's him. You won't always catch it in words. But the signs are there. Her tone softens, but her eyes are colder. She listens, but she no longer hears you. She says, it's fine. But her spirit feels gone. And if you push, if you try to bring it up, she'll say, why are you being dramatic? I'm just tired of fighting. But women don't get tired of fighting when they still care. They get tired when their emotional loyalty has shifted. And now, she's saving that energy for someone who's not you. The Stoic response. Don't chase her attention. Don't ask to argue. Don't try to revive a connection she's already redirected. Instead, reclaim your own emotional energy. Step back and see who reaches in. If she notices the silence and leans back in, you have something left to build. If she doesn't, you have something to walk away from. Habit 3 isn't the death of conflict. It's the transfer of emotional loyalty. And once that transfer completes, it rarely comes back. Let's keep going. Habit 4 is the most ironic of all. She says she wants honesty, but suddenly, yours is a threat. Habit 4. She says she wants honesty, but can't handle yours. She looks you in the eye and says, I just want honesty. Be real with me. And so you are. You open up. You speak your truth. You reveal your fears, your frustrations, your needs. You think it'll bring you closer. But instead, it pushes her further away. Why? Because what she really wanted wasn't honesty. She wanted confirmation. She didn't want the raw, uncomfortable, Stoic truth. She wanted emotional alignment, words that reinforce her current emotional story. And when your honesty doesn't fit that narrative, it becomes a problem. Suddenly, you're too harsh, too cold, too detached. But this is the paradox. She asked for the truth, and you gave it, so why the recoil? Because emotional cheaters often need a reason to justify their drift. And when you speak hard truths, they frame it as emotional neglect or lack of support. Now your honesty becomes the alibi. I tried to talk to him, but he just doesn't get me. He's emotionally unavailable. But here's the deeper truth. She wasn't seeking connection, she was seeking permission. Permission to feel misunderstood. Permission to bond elsewhere. Permission to label you the problem. Because when a woman is emotionally exiting, your truth becomes ammunition in her narrative. Even when it's calm, even when it's fair, Stoic men don't lie to keep the peace. They speak truth to test it. And when honesty ends the connection, it wasn't a connection. It was a comfort zone. She'll say she wants vulnerability. But when you give her the kind that's not polished, not poetic, when you express pain without theatrics, needs without begging, she pulls back. Why? Because real male vulnerability isn't romanticized. It's stoic, calm, measured, and that's not what the modern emotional cheater craves. She wants the softness of male emotion, but only when it fits her timing and agenda. So the moment your truth challenges her story, she shuts down. You're being too negative. You're emotionally unavailable. But what's really happening is, she's no longer emotionally available to your reality. And the other man? He says exactly what she wants to hear. You deserve better. You're so emotionally intelligent. He doesn't understand your growth. Now he becomes the safe space, and you become the trigger. Not because you were cruel, but because you were clear. Clarity threatens illusion, and emotional affairs are built on illusions. So what do? You don't apologize for speaking truth. You don't sugarcoat your reality to maintain a fake harmony. You watch what your honesty triggers. If it brings distance, resistance, or distortion, you're not in a relationship. You're in a one-sided narrative. And that's not something you fix with more words. Because once your truth becomes inconvenient, the emotional affair is already justified in her mind. Habit 4 isn't about communication. It's about emotional selectivity. She wants honesty, but only the kind that lets her feel good while letting go. Let's move forward. Habit 5 is when the phone becomes sacred, and you become a stranger. Habit 5. Her phone is her new diary, and you're not allowed in. There was a time you knew her thoughts before she even spoke. Now, her thoughts live inside a screen, and you're no longer invited. Her phone used to be a tool. Now it's a vault, always face down, always on silent, always guarded. She tells you, it's just privacy. But privacy is not the same as secrecy. And now, every time she smiles at a notification, your gut whispers a truth she'll never admit. You're no longer the first person she shares things with. She's texting more than usual, but not with you, laughing in silence, typing, deleting, typing again. She hides the screen, not because there's something explicit, but because there's something emotional. And emotional affairs don't begin in bedsheets. They begin in DMs. A late-night meme. Hey, I saw this and thought of you. A small, lol. That means far more than it seems. This is where emotional loyalty dies. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, through thousands of micro-connections you never see. She'll say, you don't trust me, but ask yourself, if the roles were reversed, if your phone was buzzing with private messages, would she stay this calm? Of course not, because deep down, we all know emotional intimacy is not about sex. It's about access. And now, someone else has access to the emotional version of her that used to be yours. Stoic men don't demand to see her phone. They don't beg for passwords. That's not strength, that's insecurity. Instead, they observe patterns. When her phone becomes the first thing she touches in the morning. When she takes it to the bathroom, to the shower, to bed, but turns away when you enter the room. When she suddenly starts locking it, even though she never used to. You're not crazy. You're not controlling. You're reading signals. Her emotional investment is now encrypted. And the excuse is always the same. You're overthinking. But you're not overthinking. You're noticing. And here's the irony. When women cheat emotionally, They often don't feel like they're cheating, because they're not doing anything physical. But the body follows where the emotions go. And now her mind is more responsive to someone else's name than yours. So what's the Stoic move? You don't confront her like a jealous teenager. You act like a man who respects truth over comfort. You say nothing. You simply become less available, less reactive. Let the imbalance reveal itself. If she asks why you're distant, you say, "You've been somewhere else emotionally for a while. I'm just catching up." No accusation, no drama, just clarity. Because if she really values the relationship, she'll feel the distance and correct it. If she doesn't, she was already gone. Habit 5 isn't about phones. It's about emotional secrecy. And if she needs to hide it, she already knows it would hurt you. Let's move on. Habit 6 is even more dangerous because now, she starts comparing you to a fantasy you'll never win against. Habit 6. She starts comparing you to the man who only exists in her messages. She tells you, "I just wish you listened more. Why can't you be more emotionally aware? You used to be more romantic." And you think, where is this coming from? You didn't change overnight, but her expectations did. What you don't realize is that you're now competing with a man who only exists in carefully curated texts. A man who never has to live with her bad moods, never hears her cry at 2 a.m., never sees the side of her that's anxious, insecure, or tired of everything. He's not real. He's digital perfection, a filtered version of masculinity built on timing, flattery, and strategic empathy. And now you're measured against that. He replies with the exact words she wants to hear. He always has time, always validates her feelings. He exists in a controlled space where effort feels easy and emotion never clashes with reality. But you're in the trenches, paying bills, handling stress, living in the raw, unedited version of life with her. And that's what makes this habit dangerous. You're losing a battle she doesn't even admit she's hosting. She won't say it out loud, but she'll show it in behavior. She becomes less patient with you, less impressed. Little things you do become bare minimum. Because now, her emotional reward comes from a fantasy that has no flaws. And you're now too logical, too distracted, not emotionally present. But none of that was a problem until her emotional baseline shifted. Stoic men don't compete with fantasies. They expose them. You simply observe. If she's suddenly dissatisfied with qualities she once admired, it's not that you failed, it's that she's emotionally investing elsewhere. And now you don't measure up to an illusion. She compares your silence to his perfect timing, your stress to his calm, your reality to his curated charm. But remember, he doesn't know her. Not really. He doesn't see the unfiltered version. He gets her highlight reel. You get her whole movie. And yet, you're the one being graded. So what's the move? You don't try to match the fantasy. That's how men lose themselves, trying to compete with someone who's not even real. Instead, you stand firm. You say, without flinching, "If I'm being compared to someone who only exists in typed words, I'm not the one disconnected from reality." No begging, no convincing, just clarity. Because emotional cheating isn't always about connection, it's often about escape. And when she starts comparing you to someone who's never held her while she cried, never shared her hardest days, never faced her silence, you're not the problem. The fantasy is. Habit 6 isn't about your shortcomings. It's about emotional delusion. And once comparison replaces appreciation, the foundation is already cracked. Time for the final blow. Habit 7 is the one most men miss, because she looks more loving right before she walks away. Habit 7. She becomes kinder right before she leaves you. You think things are getting better. She's smiling more, less tension. She starts cooking again, says, "I love you," more often, initiates sex, sends cute texts out of nowhere. But it doesn't feel like love, it feels like a goodbye you can't prove. And you're not wrong. Because when a woman becomes kinder without emotional closeness, it's not healing. It's closure. She's not reconnecting. She's rehearsing distance with politeness. She's already detached, but instead of leaving in chaos, she leaves you calm, so she doesn't feel guilty when she walks. Her kindness isn't reconnection, it's compensation. She overcompensates because she knows something you don't. She's already emotionally gone. You mistake the affection for progress. But what you're seeing is her trying to make peace with herself before she exits. She wants to leave feeling like she tried, that she was fair, that she didn't abandon you cold. So she gives you softness, but not intimacy. She gives you gestures, but not depth. You'll feel it. Sex feels performative. Compliments feel rehearsed. Her affection feels like a refund, not an investment. And when the breakup comes, she'll say, "I didn't want to hurt you." But the real truth? She wanted to leave clean. So she weaponized warmth. And Stoic men see it for what it is: calm before emotional execution. Because when someone is truly trying to reconnect, their energy pulls closer. They ask questions. They get uncomfortable. They cry. They fight. But this isn't healing. This is a woman giving you just enough love to walk away without feeling like the villain. And the final clue? She no longer asks for your attention. She thanks you. Thanks you for everything. Thanks you for being there. Thanks you for loving her. And you feel appreciated, but also eerily distant. Because appreciation without emotional presence is a eulogy. You're attending the funeral of a relationship still technically alive. So what's the Stoic move? You don't cling. You don't panic. You don't beg for more of what was never fully returned. You accept the truth. You let the fake warmth pass through you. And when the goodbye finally comes, you've already detached. Because deep down, you knew. Love doesn't exit kindly. It exits cleanly. And no one becomes nicer mid-relationship unless they're about to become a memory. Habit 7 isn't about reconnection. It's the softest, most dangerous exit strategy ever invented. The kiss on the cheek before the ghosting. The home-cooked meal before the silent treatment. The "I'm lucky to have you" right before she leaves to chase the one she emotionally gave herself to months ago. This isn't bitterness. This is awareness. Emotional cheating isn't always betrayal in the dark. Sometimes, it's a goodbye wrapped in affection. And most men don't see it coming until the bed is cold and the texts stop. But Stoic men? They don't react. They reflect. Then they walk. Because they know. The woman who truly loves you doesn't wait until the end to start acting like it. So if you're wondering how it all changed, why the woman who once clung to your chest now pulls away from your touch, it wasn't sudden. It was slow. It was silent. It was systematic. She didn't fall for someone better. She fell for someone softer. More convenient. Less real. But don't hate her for it. Don't chase. Don't explain. Don't try to out-romance the ghost of a man who lives in her imagination. Because the moment she began cheating emotionally, she was already willing to lose you physically. And a Stoic man never fights to be loved. He stands still, calm, certain, and lets truth do the cutting. You didn't lose her. She lost the version of herself who knew how to value you. And no amount of flowers, texts, or forgiveness can revive a woman who's already made peace with walking away. So what now? You don't rebuild her loyalty. You rebuild your standard. You walk, not to escape her, but to return to yourself. Because real love doesn't start with access, it starts with alignment. And the next time, you'll choose a woman who doesn't just love you in comfort, but honors you in silence, in doubt, and especially in rooms where your name isn't even spoken. That's not just love, that's loyalty. And a Stoic man accepts nothing less.